Hospital porters' pride and dignity. Stop the New World Order. Welcome to HPANWO TV and welcome to this, the 58th comments reply video. The video in which I get to reply to your comments. This is the comments you post under the videos on my YouTube channel. All the comment sections of my YouTube channel are open and anyone can post comments there. I feel obliged to reply to these comments. Some of you put a lot of effort into these. Some of the comments are quite long. Some of them obviously have a lot of thought in and often address me directly. I don't have time to reply by text, so I do these comments reply videos instead. Now these comments reply videos are often very long, and they some of them are over 9 hours. I think that's my record, is one over 9 hours. And you might be thinking, well, I only want one reply to one comment. I'm not going to watch a 9-hour video just for that. Well, guess what? You don't have to, because what's going to happen is every time I reply to a comment, I put in the following: thanks for your comment. It'll be answered approximately within the, and then I first say first, second, third, fourth, fifth hour of the video, of the upcoming comments reply video. And I put that as a reply to the comment to you, which I'm answering. And so the longest you're going to have to watch is 1 hour. Simple as that. So it's very, very simple. You don't have to watch an entire 9-hour video. What's more, my comments reply videos are getting a lot shorter than they used to be, because I do them more often. I've been in a bit of a rush to do this one, actually, because the last one was so awful. Yeah. Another reason I do them is because I enjoy doing them. I enjoy doing these comments reply videos, and many of you do too. People who watch, a lot of you watch them all the way through. As I said, I wanted to get this done as soon as I could, because there were some major technical problems in the last comments reply video, which left me having to convert the recordings from my webcam into audio files and just put in an illustration. Which is very, very unsatisfactory indeed. I've now solved the problems that I had. I knew what the big problem was, that the video files being created by this HD 4K webcam were so huge, my editing software couldn't cope with them. I've now found a way to convert these files into smaller ones, to compress them. This means there may be a reduction in picture quality, but it's not very much, and it means that basically I can go back to making these little videos like I used to, which is great. So let's begin with, let's go to this section where I've been replying to where your comments begin, and it begins over 3 weeks ago, which is about the right length, I think. By the way, do you like my new coffee mug? You may recognise this from my Into the Triangle video. Yes, Rhiannon, she bought one of them for me. David Smith says here, this is actually, unusually this is a reply, the first comment is actually a reply on a thread. I've won lotto plenty of times with no ticket. Always seems to be the Nigerian lotto, but a win is a win, and once the lawyer fees have been paid, I'll be rich. Right. This is typical of David Smith's sarcasm. I don't know exactly what he's referring to here, but it's in reply to where Steve Mumbling, if you remember from the last video, says you have more chance of winning the lotto without a ticket than seeing me on one of your live streams. 7 PM where you live, or is 2 AM where I am. Oh, right. Well, the next live stream might be a bit later, Steve. And I've noticed you've been live streaming now. They're trying to get in on the game. Well, good luck, mate. You've got a long way to go before you catch me up. The next one is 1500. The last one, both of these are actually on 1500 UFO pages. 1500 UFO pages live stream, and there'll be more UFO videos coming up very soon. The next one is on reply to comments 57. It's sorry. There's another one on 1500 pages, and it's Bob Gamer 4YT says Big Man Ben. Big Man Ben. Oh. I suppose I'm quite big, aren't I? Yeah. Reply to comments 57. Steve Mumbling says, perhaps Jarrah should consider getting a job and buying their house. He's begging to keep a roof over his head. He lived there, looking after her for 12 years, and she didn't leave it to him. Strange. Steve, do you know anything about Jarrah's life, or are you just speculating? Is this something you've just thought about because you have a very low opinion of Jarrah? Jarrah is a scientist. You know, do you think he's? I mean, I think he makes enough money with his acting work and with his YouTube. You know, I think that's his job. That's the job, isn't it? If you could do YouTubing and nothing else, would you do it? And most people who do YouTubing, if they could do it professionally and nothing else, they would do that. I'm not sure about me. It comes with drawbacks actually if you go full time on YouTube, because you have to start obeying the rules more. But I think you're passing judgment on Jarrow when you don't know anything about him. Why don't you cut him some slack, okay? He's lost his grandmother. Just get off his case. Same video, Steve Mumbling says, your science fiction ramblings aren't irrefutable proof of a directed energy weapon being used on 9/11. Yes, they are, because I'm drawing on someone who has found proof, Dr. Judy Wood. I've repeatedly asked you for your best evidence of a directed energy weapon being used. I haven't seen any so far. Yes, you have, Steve. In how many videos now have I replied to you on this subject? You have. Right, I'm just going to check everything's working all right. Yeah, the microphone might be a bit over loud, actually. I might put it up like that, because it's sort of like... Oh, I can't know if I can get all the sound right, but anyway. Turn the volume down if it's too loud. People were complaining it was too quiet the other day. You can't bloody win. It keeps going, it keeps like... being overwhelmed. Alright then, Andrew Johnson and Judy Wood have zero credibility. Their opinion isn't evidence. They're providing evidence though, Steve. They are providing evidence. And David, Splendid Isolation, says underneath, that's merely a claim. Detailed point refutation has credence, not rhetoric. Well, exactly. Exactly, David. This is what I've been trying to do with Steve. I've been trying this with Steve. That's what all these videos are for. Steve Mumbling says underneath, just as Ben and Co. claim. They never provide any evidence though, do they? I've done a detailed refutation of Johnson's rubbish. Why not take a look at it? You could say that to David if you like. David could check it out. I certainly have seen your supposed detailed refutation. It's neither detailed nor is it a refutation. I've actually made comments. I've made a video reply to it. I think it's called 9/11, a reply to Steve Mumbling. Very original name. David says to Steve, then perhaps do it here, otherwise your post itself is mere rhetoric. Steve says, post all their ridiculous claims here in detail and I will address them one by one. Well, I'd say to David, check out Steve's channel. I often do what Steve's done. I've said, look, I say to people, rather than me typing out a long text here, why don't you just check out so-and-so video on my channel? And it's basically the same thing. So there's nothing wrong with Steve actually doing that and just saying, David, go and check out his channel. Yes, that's what I do all the time. Got another thread here in reply to comments 57. It's, Steve and David are at it again. The BBC is telling the same story as every other Western news outlet that has reporters on the ground in Ukraine, including well-known reporters from here in Australia. I suppose they're all lying, and RT tells the truth. Wakey, wakey, Ben. FFS. Well, they don't. The thing is, they do all lie. That's the problem, Steve. Some of them are better than others. I mean, I noticed that, was it Sky Australia? They're quite good. But the thing is, you've got to ask yourself is, if the truth about Ukraine and Russia is so clear-cut, why not let the other side tell their story? Because it'd be so obvious to people, because we are intelligent adults, not children. Surely it'd be so obvious to us that that's the case. But instead they just say, oh, no, we're going to cancel misinformation. So we're going to withdraw its license for the sake of misinformation. Yeah. I'm sure every fraudster in the world, when whenever the police put out a warning, they say, oh, that's misinformation. Yeah. David Splendid Isolation says underneath, yes, indeed, like the Snake Island story and the Baba Yar Memorial and the Call of Duty video game clips and umpteen other thoroughly investigated claims, the BBC is always correct and in no way politically motivated, especially in times of war. Nice one, David. Nice comment. Just the right edge of sarcasm. I like that, and it's a good point. The Snake Island story has been exposed. It's another Jessica Lynch, just like the Ghost of Kiev. This heroic pilot, and the clips, they've been absolutely, obviously not only have they just been inserted into the news, but they've been deliberately doctored to make them look more like news footage. They've been positively identified as clips from video games, Steve. Now, if these other Western news outlets, or if they're all not lying, why not? Because they're all using these clips. And in RT, if you go into RT, they expose this sort of thing. That's what they don't want us to see it. Steve Mumling says to David, just like RT, have you got any links to the video game clips, etc., you mentioned? I would like to see these for myself. I'm sure you'll understand my not taking your word for it. You should have to, you know. But, there's this... I don't have the information to hand, but they do exist. The research has been done. I've seen it. Did you miss the bit about all other Western news outlets telling the same story as the BBC? You think this is some grand conspiracy involving every Western media outlet? Well, my answer to that, Steve, is simply yes. David says underneath, pseudo-skeptics of the world unite. Yeah. The term pseudo-skeptic is kind of... Alright, here we go. Replying to comments 57. We have Musketeer. I'm kind of... I was suspicious this person might be Team Droik. I'm not so sure now. So if I've got that wrong, I'm apologising anyway. Musketeer says, Raza doesn't have to reply to my point because there are hundreds of photographs of SpaceX crew in orbit not wearing suits. YouTube won't allow my links. Well, it'll go to the spam folder, I think, Musketeer, and I will simply approve it. Raza tries to make out Apollo can't be real because to fly to such a high orbit, as in the case of Inspiration 4, Dragon crew have to wear their suits all the time and Apollo crew didn't. However, when you ask him directly if Dragon crew do in fact wear the suits for the full duration, he quickly changed the subject. Raza even used the wrong photograph. He used a photo from the Demo 1. As I said previously, their pressure suits are worn during liftoff, docking, undocking and re-entry and nothing to do with radiation. There's a multitude of websites about the suits which state this. Musketeer says, I've never been nasty to you, Ben. You seem to get upset when people raise points you don't want to answer. Not true, no, I don't. I get upset when people are rude, and I get upset when I suspect someone of being a troll, including the most serious ones of all. But if you're not, I'll answer your questions. Like when I asked you about the Russian treatment of... No, I didn't get... It says of gays, evangelists and anti-vaxxers. I didn't get upset about that, did I? I'm thinking about sending you a photo. I'll ask the wife's advice first. And you have to agree not to show it to anyone else. No, I will not... I will not make that promise before seeing it. But you say, what exactly does happen in Russia? And what happened was I actually answered your question about Russia by I actually answered by giving you a testimony of a homosexual who lives in Russia. Now, you can't just ignore that. I think what you see, and as for evangelists, even so, Russia has an Orthodox faith. It has the Russian Orthodox Church. Yeah, what I did was I actually showed you examples of Presbyterian, Roman Catholic, Methodist, and other institutions within Russia. I think in Russia there's so many different religions. There's Islam, there's Buddhism. There's an entire Buddhist state in Russia within the Russian Federation. What's it called? Not Palmyra. What's it called? I can't remember what it's called now. Russia. So exactly what kind of oppression are these people facing? Because I've explained to you how, when it comes to homosexuality, the word oppression has been applied to simply, and it's not just in Russia this happens, it happens everywhere. The word oppression has been applied simply to people saying, could you please not wave dildos in front of children? And the response is, that's homophobic oppression. It's not. It's simply asking people to be decent. Oh, Charles from Project Camelot has disappeared. I'll explain. I'll say more about this later because someone asked a question about this. But Musketeer says to Charles, I don't understand him sometimes. Everyone knows what it would mean if someone said to them, would you like to step outside and say it to my face? At the end of my comment, I asked what if they do. He missed that bit out. And as the live stream the other night, Ben is very selective in what he reads out. I'm only selective because I've limited time. But I don't believe I got upset with you, Musketeer. I only say that to people who like rude. Musketeer says a short video about this is different comments about the functions of the suit, not designed to protect from radiation. As a side note, the suit look was designed by Hollywood costume designer Jose Fernandez, who did Batman and Superman, Dawn of Justice, Tron, Iron Man 2, The Amazing Spider-Man and Captain America Civil War, not to mention some Daft Punk gear. So they were fashion designed as well as, they're not just functional, they're meant to look good. Well, it is a product, I suppose. Quote, I didn't know what SpaceX was and I thought it was a film, Fernandez said. There are people out there who believe all SpaceX stuff is nothing more than a CGI movie. Well, Musketeer, most of those are like flat earthers, of which does not include me. It does include some people within the Apollo research community. You know what Jarrah thinks of them. I personally, I don't feel the visceral disgust that Jarrah does for these people. However, I think they're completely wrong. Musketeer says to Charles, and I can't see Charles's comments because Charles has vanished. I'll say more about the disappearance of Charles later. I have actually been speaking to someone privately about Charles. I won't divulge any information, but I will give you something of an explanation. In a dangerous situation, the last thing you want to lose is your sight. Cue Charles, I don't need sight. I am a super soldier. Musketeer says car parks belong to someone usually if there's outside a venue. They belong to that venue, company or local authority. Either way, I think you would find it hard to find a car park that's public land and belongs to somebody. That's why they have signs saying the owners won't accept responsibility for. All right, it's a catchphrase, Musketeer. It just means, you know, please. Don't just say this stuff to me online. It's people like Richard D. Hall and people like others. They say these things from the comfort and safety of social media, and then my reply is, well, would you say that to my face? Let's take a stroll outside in the car park. It's kind of a metonym. That's all it is. It doesn't literally mean a car park. But you're right. Most car parks belong to the establishment they're a part of. Reply to comments 57, Steve Mumbling says, I say Dogman and Bigfoot are absolute rubbish. Because I haven't seen them, nor have I seen a yowie. Steve, I've never seen a mole, but moles exist. Who digs these holes in the land and leaves these big piles of spoil on the surface? Moles. I've never seen a mole. They exist, so you not seeing something is not evidence it doesn't exist. Can you provide tangible evidence to support the existence of any of these fictional critters? We do all the time, Steve. I've discussed it many times. Israel Diego Rivera, genius to the real genius, says, what about dogging? Have you ever seen that? Steve replies, I've not only seen it, I've done it. Only kidding. Steve actually says to Charles, thanks, Charles. I'm sure I'll keep them coming. Where's this live show you did with Ben? That sounds like fun. Oh, that was Terry Joyce, Not My Rabbit Hole with Terry Joyce. Steve says in reply to Diego Vera, mercifully not, but I don't find that extraordinary. It doesn't involve cryptobiology, so I'm happy to accept it goes on. Dogmen, Bigfoot and Yowies are extraordinary, so I would require some serious evidence to accept they're real. Someone showing one of these critters or their remains on 60 Minutes, etc. Not one of these critters has ever been found anywhere in the world in all of recorded history. So they just aren't really there, are they? Well, if you mean, like, thing is, there are people. This goes back to what Darcy Weir was talking about. There have been attempts to do exactly what you've just said, and the bodies have been confiscated. But in his case, it was the Royal Canadian Mounted Police actually confiscated a Bigfoot body. One was found once. So these things are being the evidence of their existence is being suppressed. I mean, this was a new element that I didn't know about until I spoke to Darcy Weir. But he showed what his research had revealed. Hugo Rune says to Charles, no matter how many times you say absolute rubbish, I crease up laughing. So glad to hear that. I do too. Am I natural? I think he's meant to address that to Steve. Steve says to Charles, thanks, Charles. I had a quick look. I'm afraid I couldn't handle more than a few minutes, as Terry's voice sounds like someone boring holes in my head. And doesn't she like the sound of it? Jeez. The guy with the tin-foil turban looked the part. I'm surprised he's not on the Apollo detectives. Oh, do you mean the Swami? Oh, he's cool. I like the Swami. It's not tinfoil. And what's wrong with Terry's voice? Doesn't it's just like listening to the sound of butterflies' wings whenever she says "Booing on." Steve Bumbling says to Charles, "I think you're absolutely right. None of this ET nonsense is real. If it was, we would have some real evidence, not just fuzzy images and science fiction stories. I have to ask, what made you think and then unthink you were abducted?" Right. This obviously I'm only hearing one side of this conversation now because Charles has vanished. Steve, his channel is gone completely. Steve says to Charles, "Sorry to hear that, Charles. It does sound rather peculiar, but far less peculiar than aliens fiddling around you while you sleep. The conspiracy crew would have made the most of that and write a book about it." David says to Steve, "Steve, what would you think if you did see a snarling Bigfoot in front of you, or a flying saucer hovering close by and then zipping off like a bullet? Would you automatically dismiss it as a hoax or a temporal lobe hallucination, or would you seriously believe what you experienced yourself?" Steve says to David, "It's something I would have to see to believe. I would make an assessment based on what I saw." That's not a bad answer, Steve. The problem is, if you did see it, the skeptics would say you were hallucinating, and you'd no longer be a skeptic. You'd be cast out of the fold. How would you feel to be expelled from the world of skeptology? David says to Steve, "We're presuming you saw it and experienced it close up, and you would be open to it being, the real deal, or would you prefer to be dismissive?" Steve says to David, "I'm interested in the truth. Simple as that." Well, Steve, like I said, you would have accusations if you did have that experience with a Bigfoot, a Yowie, or with a UFO. You would be accused of making it up. People would say, "Well, you're hallucinating. You're not really hearing it." All things like that. You would receive that kind of treatment. All right, here we go. Reply to comments 57. Hugo Rune says, "Oh, hang on. I did put a comment reply for him. Yes, I'm making a few spliffs while I listen to this. One lit up and chilling well." Oh my God, you're going to start your usual. You're going to start your usual tirades now, aren't you? No, I know what. Here we are. I know what happens when Hugo gets stoned. And we have Hugo Rune. Here we go. Reply to comments 57. Hugo Rune says, "I will repeat, in all the years since I've been using cannabis now, that's since the late 1970s, I've never had any negative experiences." Musketeer says, "That may be the case, but everyone is different. Many who have used marijuana have experienced at least some paranoia to varying degrees. I've seen people completely freak out." Musketeer, I have to tell you, in fact you already know if you read HPANWO Voice, I'm one of those people. I did have a very, very bad experience when I was smoking. I don't think it was just marijuana. It was something. There's more mixed in with it. Basically, a friend provided it. A guy from the David Icke forum provided it. Reports of bad experiences are not some conspiracy made up by those who don't want you to smoke. They're real. I've seen them. Yeah, it's like, I would say that these kinds of drugs have to be treated with respect. As I made this point in my ayahuasca reply to Stephen Molyneux. Because there are dangers associated with them, and because people do have bad experiences and indeed come to harm as a result of taking a drug, does not mean it should not be used at all, or it's negative. For example, the amount of harm and negative experience as a result of alcohol is enormous. The same with tobacco. In terms of tobacco, certainly in terms of a person's health. In terms of alcohol, not just there, it doesn't just impact the body enormously. It's very bad for your physical health if you abuse it. The intoxication could be very dangerous if you drive, for example, when drunk. You can be badly hurt and indeed cause a lot of injury and death, as well as your own. Hugo Rune says to Musketeer, "Simple. If cannabis affects you badly, don't use it." I've actually not had I've only used used it twice, whatever it was I was smoking. And the first time it was wonderful. I just laughed in the first time. If you read her HPANWO voice, I've written articles about it. The second time I had a very nasty trip. I became paranoid. I lost sense of time and place. I forgot where I was. I forgot what time of day it was. I became very irritable, and I hallucinated as well. I describe the hallucinations I had, and also I had bad visions when I closed my eyes, things like that. Musketeer says to Hugo Rune, agreed, but that's not my point. A couple of posts on Ben's videos seem to be suggesting bad things don't happen. I think instead of just saying nothing bad ever happened to me, people should be responsible, but they can and do happen to some people. I don't think Hugo ever actually said that, did he? I don't remember Hugo saying, "Oh, don't worry, it's just like sugar candy." And I don't think he ever said that. Hugo says to Musketeer, cannabis is the safest drug in the world. It's also a medication in many parts of the world. I get prescribed Sativex. I'm unaware of a single death through cannabis. I would suggest that your contact just leave it alone if they can't get medical benefit. What your contact took, I don't know, but cannabis does not change your brain after a few spliffs. If you stop it, it will eventually leave you, read more, long-term leave your body, so there's no long-term threat. I just doubt that the person you mentioned took cannabis. What you said of the effect is totally unrecognisable with cannabis to me. I've never ever heard of it before. Sorry, I just don't trust your reporting. Oh, Hugo, I'm sure you probably worked out by now that what I took was not just cannabis. Now, the guy who provided it, he's not a bad guy, actually. I actually like him. I've known him for many years from the David Icke Forum. He just had this concoction he brought with him, which he put in a pipe and smoke, and everyone else in the room was smoking, and they all trust him, and they call him Uncle, and his name, I won't give you his name, but they always call him Uncle along with his name. Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't that bad. I mean, I think the problem wasn't the actual drug. I mean, a lot of other people were using it; they were fine. It was me. It's because I wasn't used to it. As I said, it's only the second time I've ever taken anything other than a glass of booze. I never smoked. I just wasn't used to it, and it affected me badly. And they were very sympathetic and helpful, and I got over it. It wasn't bad. I got over it. I didn't get an axe and start hacking people up. I just sort of sat in a room alone for a while and put a blanket over my head, and I just sat there. Musketeer says to Hugo, oh sorry, David Smith says, my dad smoked cannabis for decades, died of lung cancer. Smoking almost anything is bad for your lungs. If what you're smoking contains carcinogens, yes. A lot of what I found is a lot of people smoke. They simply mix it with tobacco. They mix cannabis with tobacco. That's quite common preparation. Musketeer says to Hugo, you're losing me here. I think you're mistaking me for the guy whose mum had the cake at the party. Well, you can have it as cake. Yeah, I've eaten a cannabis cake and got. That's the third time I took it. That was at my daughter's party. I never suggested anyone who's died from cannabis use. I'm quite sure they haven't. Not sure what you meant by my contact. I'm talking about people I've known personally over the years who I have seen with my own eyes freak out on weed. That in mind, saying you don't trust my reporting is nothing less than calling me a liar. You're not going to get wasted on Sativex. Do you even know what you're taking? Now the thing is, like, cannabis can be harmful and can be abused. I mean, a person who did have a very, very bad relationship with cannabis is Graeme Hancock, and he talks quite frankly about it in the interview he did with Joe Rogan. I can't remember. He's done many with Joe. I can't remember which one it was. Let me give you an example, says Musketeer. In the first days after PlayStation 1 came out, my friend brought it round to show me. With him came another guy I didn't know. I rolled up and we started to play and puff. Not long after, the guy I didn't know freaked out and ran out of the apartment down the stairs from the 12th floor into the parking lot, ripping his clothes off as he went. Oh dear. Funny enough, Musketeer, you're using American language now. Apartment, parking lot. These are American words. You also said mom instead of mum. I read it out as mum, which indicates that you are. You see, I don't think any of the Team Droid trolls are American. So it seems I owe you an apology. But, oh my goodness me. Well, at least he went down the stairs and he didn't try to climb off the balcony. That does happen to some people on some substances. You've got to be sensible. You've got to be looked after. You've got to make sure you're okay. That's what happened, and I've seen many other cases of people losing it. I guess, according to you, I'm a liar. Excuse me. And so are others who've seen or had bad experiences reported all over the net. But what I've found, Musketeer, I don't think a simple cannabis preparation can do that to people. What can be, people mix other things in with it. I think, though. That's the problem. I think that's what happened to me. Now, I didn't run out into a car park ripping my clothes off, luckily, but I was disturbed. I've written about it on HPANWO Voice. Musketeer says to Charles, I've never seen anyone get violent, but I've seen some messed up reactions. I don't think Hugo is as experienced as you would like us to believe. Sativex. Hugo Rune says, I do smoke myself, although I also use a bong to vaporize, but I argue that it is the smoking doing the killing, not the cannabis in any way. I would be prepared to test this myself under good controlled conditions, where I'd eat nothing but cannabis flowers. GW Pharmaceuticals can supply the cannabis. The police took my last plant. That's an important point. Musketeer, he doesn't just take Sativex. Hugo grows his own. It's actually been in the news about it. Musketeer says to Charles, I've smoked it on and off for varying degrees for years, and apart from a bit of paranoia, which is when it happens, I'm fine knowing it's just a weed, no problem. However, there can be problems for sure, severe problems sometimes. Hugo's just denying tested and proven medical facts. Musketeer says to Hugo Rune, wrong again, Hugo. People with medical health conditions should stay away from drugs, but you don't have the mental health issues to have bad experiences. Who exactly are you trying to fool here, and why? Maybe it's time to put the shovel down. Musketeer carries on to Hugo. You said I'm sadly wrong. What did you say in my reply that you say sadly wrong? Hugo says to Musketeer. God, this is a long thread. Musketeer, agreed, people with mental health problems should leave drugs alone. I am billions of others worldwide who do not have these extreme reactions to cannabis, but if you do, then please don't deny its medical therapeutic use in meds or weed. But the law calls me a dangerous criminal. Please yourself, I know reality. Musketeer says to... How long is this going to go on for? Musketeer says to Charles, some people feel guilty deep down about having a smoke. I don't. If they try and justify it to themselves by denying the facts, there can be side effects, and to deny that is talking complete rubbish. I'm actually in favour of smokers' rights, actually. I don't think it should be banned from pubs. I'm a non-smoker, I have been all my life. I don't think it should be banned from pubs. I'm totally against that. As you know, in my Weird Weekend video, I found a sign in an open-air bus shelter telling people not to smoke in the bloody bus shelter. Why? It's got a roof. It's got no walls. It's got like these little. It's got supports with posters between them, poster mounts. But it's the open air. David Smith says to Hugo, yeah, I'd agree with you. Taking it in another form would be pretty safe. Hugo says to Musketeer, never mind, I have no desire to offend anyone. Hugo Rune says to Musketeer, never mind. Musketeer says to Hugo, you didn't say where I was sadly wrong. You just parroted me for pointing out where you were wrong. Did I say I had extreme reactions to weed? No. Did I say weed doesn't have therapeutic benefits? No. Did I say you should be classed as a criminal? No. And so on and so on. There's a pattern here, Hugo. I've smoked loads of weed. Never would I tell anyone there's no risk. Only a fool or a liar could do that. Take your pick. Hugo says to Musketeer, what is this pattern you keep going on about? Take my pick, I've already stated. If you have adverse reactions, don't use it, please yourself. Musketeer says to Hugo, keep going on about, I mentioned it once, I said only a fool or a liar would go around telling people weed is risk-free. Already told you I don't have adverse reactions to weed. Thanks, I will. You know, there's literally nothing you can put in your body that doesn't have some kind of risk. Almost everything, including many foods, which we have to. You can't avoid unless if you want to starve or you starve. You could put something in which has some bacteria on that could kill you. Yet you have to. If you don't eat, you'll just starve to death. You could breathe something in at any point. You could drink it in with water. You could ingest some kind of toxin in water. You can reduce those risks. You can't eliminate them. And I think when it comes to drugs, I have a very similar attitude. Now, there's some drugs that are more harmful than others. There are drugs that, for example, are higher risk than others. I would never advocate the use of crack cocaine to anyone. It's a terrible drug. But it generally, like I said, if it's something else like the ones we've been talking about here, and you're a sensible adult and you know what you're doing, and you've done research in how to do this safely, and you do it in a good setting with people who look after you, yeah, go ahead. I'm bringing it around and doing PlayStation and just puffing away. Maybe it's not the best setting, which is why this guy freaked out and stripped his clothes off and ran outside. Anyway, Hugo Roon says in reply to comments 57, Big Pharma already controlled the cannabis side. Now they're making a profit. The Sativex I get prescribed only has 0.5 grams of the THC CBD and only about £6 worth of resin at street prices. Yet they charge the NHS around £125 a bottle. Oh, mofos! Honestly, man, that news story you took, I can't believe you could have gone to jail, man. Honestly, they could literally put you in jail under the law we have right now. Oh my God! And if they just let you grow your own. What harm are you doing? It's all for your own. It's all for your own consumption. I mean, you said this in the news report. They were very much on your side in that news story. Talk about a victimless crime. I mean, it's worse than a victimless crime. It's a crime of someone who is self-medicating. This is Ian R. Crane warned about this before he died. He said they're going to make sure that you have no access to any therapeutic substance at all that doesn't come from Big Pharma. Hugo says, sorry for the ads in that film link. I never see them. I use Firefox browser. I don't know which one you mean, Hugo. Is this part of a thread? Oh, I think this is... No, it's not part of a thread. All right. Stephen, reply to comments 57. Stephen the Truth Seeker. No, I didn't see the Lily White Boys. Oh, that's referring to this incident where a strange secret society was supposed to be operating on the Wirral, and they were coming out at night. And Weird Weekend North talked about this. Steve, I know, comes from that area. No, I didn't see the Lily White Boys. It was someone who used to night fish. Who I used to night fish with. He was walking home at 2 a.m. with his fishing tackle cutting across a park when he told me he saw them. They were seen again in the same place a few days later. There was a small wood with a mature oak beech next to the area. They were dancing. One of them got cornered next to a tree. The guy turned his head and shouted to his mates, "I've got one here." He turned his head back and the Lily White Boy was gone. Oh God. That's scary, Steve. Very. I've met Stephen Truth Seeker, actually. He's a real person. 1,500 pages UFO live stream. I consider that one of my finest live streams, actually. I really do think it was very good. John Ferguson says here, Big Lou, alright, Big Lou, LER, CIA, counter, Intel, and it's all capital letters with no bloody punctuation marks. Can't you learn to write properly? And you dare give that lying rat time. He's been asked to go on Dark Journalist, and one question is all DJ wants to ask. Are you still under security classification? Yes, shill, PS, TTSA, haha, 21X, Intel, and CIA on the board. Well, John, I know you're not Richard D. Hall because he's far more coherent than you are. Translating this stream of bad articulation, all I can say is you're suggesting that you're talking about Lou Elizondo being a shill, and I dare give that lying rat time. Well, I mean, I don't think he's a lying rat. I think he does deserve to be given airtime. As Christina Gomez said, she said she wrote an article about this, which is very good. Because UFO Twitter they're getting very Hawleyan actually with Elizondo, and she makes the point. She wrote a very long article defending him. And as for Dark Journalist, I didn't know that. I mean, has he not been on with Dark Journalist yet? I know that's strange. John Greenwald's interviewed him. He seems to be interviewed everywhere. I mean, anyway, I think you're being unfair there. Basically, reply to comments 57, David Smith. Ben, these could all be done without video. Why don't you design a nice logo for your channel, or have one of the dedicated listeners create one for you? David, I have done. I've designed my own logo, which at the end of every video I put it there. But at the beginning, there's one designed by a friend of mine called Craig. He designed a very nice one. No, sorry, that wasn't Craig. That was someone else. Apologies. So someone else does. As for, I don't want to do this thing where you just have like an illustration. I did it on the last comments reply video for technical reasons, like I said. Charles from Project Camelot says something, and the crafty nihilist laughs. All right. I don't know what's up with Charles. I can't see him. Anyway, Gary Robinson says, on reply to comments 57, hey Ben, mate, in regards to me being listed as Gary Robinson, the 13th on IMDb, I think it's simply the case that if there are other people with the same name, then they apply Roman numerals to your name in order to differentiate. You're welcome to any music from my catalogue, mate, anytime, free of charge, of course. Cheers. Thanks, Gary. That's a very nice offer. Thank you. If you can think of some good tunes which you think would HPANWO-esque, I'll have a listen through them. I'll credit you, of course, as I always do. That's really nice of you. That's nice of you. I'm glad you've got your page on IMDb. 57, David. Ben, Yahweh is the personal name of God revealed to Moses. The word Elohim means God in the same way Prime Minister is the title and Boris is his personal name. Also in Hebrew, Elohim is plural. El is singular, Eloah is two, Elohim is three or more. Yeah, as in cherubim, seraphim, etc. It's and Elohim, when used in Hebrew scripture, is always used with a singular noun or verb, which is why it's rendered God singular in the translation into English. You sure about that, David? It certainly was in the Latin version from which the King James Bible came from. Are you sure it is in the original Hebrew? You lose that nuance in English, but when you know this Hebrew nuance, it speaks of God's plurality whilst being a singular office, hence God the singular, plural yet singular, three in one. Oh, that's kind of like from the Trinity, of course, God in three persons, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. Yeah, I didn't know about that though. I mean, if you're right about the Hebrew original, yeah, that being said, does that explain why the word Elohim is plural? It could be, I mean, obviously the Queen uses the royal we, doesn't she? So it could be people who didn't know would say, well, how many of you are there? Because she always talks about we are not amused. That was Queen Victoria, we are not amused. But Queen Elizabeth does the same thing. She uses the royal we as a plural. She describes herself as a plural. Okay, that's interesting, David. If it's true, it doesn't discount the point that is made about people who've researched the book of Genesis and about what is actually meant by God in that book as opposed to in other parts of the Bible. Reply to comments 57, BZ Garson. The BBC banned RT. What on earth are you waffling on about? It was Ofcom who revoked RT's broadcasting licence endorsed by the government. All right, BZ, that's correct. Yes, that is correct. If I said the BBC banned it, that was inaccurate. But I know it was Ofcom. I know it was the government itself who decided to withdraw the licence from RT. Either way, it's a bad thing. I don't like censorship like that. Reply to comments 57. Forgive me, Ben, I can't give you a timestamp for your comment, but sometime you said, I expect Hugo Roon will have something to say on this. Sorry for all the crap. Oh, what was it? I mean, I don't know. I say that several times. Whenever the subject of subjects you like and are interested in come up, I will mention them. It's usually to do with health matters, disabilities, cannabis, things like that. Hugo says to Charles, thanks pal, honestly, I'm having major problems keeping up with all the replies. I know I've missed responding to some, but I'm not used to this sort of thing. My proactive days, UK 420, were over long ago. Now I just need to say stuff, the law, and get another grow on. You're high already, aren't you, Hugo? Crafty's nihilist, he says to Project Camelot, true. And I don't know what Charles is saying, but the crafty nihilist laughs at Charles. I just can't be bothered with videos at the moment. I'm having an elongated meh moment. Now, you see, if you post a comment on here and it's part of a thread, if you start the thread, then the thread will disappear. If you delete your channel, the thread will disappear and all the replies will disappear. If you respond to someone on a thread, then the thread remains, the opening poster, if the opening poster is still around, but your own comments will disappear. This is what happened with Charles when he deleted his channel. That's what happened. Hugo Roon says, sod it all. Oh, he's high now. He's high as a kite. Sod it to all you cannabis doom lords. Please tell me how much your problem does alcohol cause? How many deaths are from alcohol? I'm enjoying a can of Brewdog Punk IPA at the moment. I may feel like causing probs in a pub, but I can't be bothered. You could always run a few people down in your wheelchairs. Hugo. Marky Boy says, in reply to that, it comes down to this fictitious scenario. You can ask people this. So you are stuck in a broken lift for 10 hours. Who would you rather be stuck in it with? A couple of drinkers or a couple of weed smokers? Well, personally, I'd rather be stuck with a lift engineer. The drunks are going to be a complete nightmare. The smokers will be amiable and you can all sit and discuss the meaning of life and everything. I've never had bad dealings with people who love the sweet leaf, but drinkers are another thing altogether. Alcohol drags you down, but a nice mellow leaf lifts you up and feels good. That's my take on it. I'm not a heavy smoker, just now and then on a weekend. It's definitely opened my mind. Marky, I must agree with you, actually. I wouldn't want to be stuck in any confined space with a bunch of people who drinking heavily. I've been stuck with people who are alcoholics. I am an ex-hospital porter, of course. How could you not be? I'm not just talking about a booth in a social club. I'm talking about things like being on a train, for example, and there's a bunch of knobheads at the end of the carriage who are getting drunk on the overpriced cans of lager. This is one of the reasons I prefer catching the coach. Yeah, I'd rather have people on cannabis. Apart from, sometimes they have. In certain circumstances, depending on what they're smoking, they can have bad psychological reactions. Apart from that, people on weed are usually quite cool. I was cool when I was on weed. The first time I took it, I just laughed my head off, and it was really funny. Hugo says to Marky, well said, that man, thank you. Hugo says to Charles, is it, where, and what does that mean? Sorry, I've never heard of that before, so not sure of its meaning. Hugo says again to Charles, actually, it is referred to as wacky backy over here, UK. What is your here? Where's your here? Of course. Charles lives in the United States. Thank you. Honestly, I would admit I do not like Americans, but I like your comments. Honestly, I thought you were a Brit, so I'm surprised to learn you're American. A pleasant surprise too. You are the first American I respect. Oh dear. Now Charles does a very good English accent when he imitates Charles. That's right, Ben. I'm gonna do you. Hugo says to Charles, something really weird here. The system is telling me these posts don't exist. I cannot normally see them or reply to them, but I'll wait and see if it settles down before I respond further. Hugo, all right, and says, that I fully understand. I'm ex-army myself, so similar respect to you. All right. I don't know what this. I can't see Charles as part of the conversation. As for posts that don't exist, they exist, but they sometimes go to my spam folder. I always liberate them from there, unless there's some blatant spam or abuse. And I don't know why that is, but that's probably what happened. But some I know are disappearing. They're not just going to my spam folder. This came up on the last video, last comments reply videos. They're being posted. People are posting them, and they're just vanishing. That's a technical problem with YouTube. I don't know why it is. Hugo says on reply to comments 57, quite simply, in all my years of smoking cannabis, only England has cannabis psychosis. Sorry for going on. Does it? Well, no other countries do? Why just England? Steve says on 57, oh, damn it. I'm going to have to... Alright, scroll back down again. Yawn. I don't know what happened there. Oh, hang on, yawn. Right, scroll down. How much? Scroll down. Right, scroll down. I don't know how long. I always make estimates about how long my comments reply video is going to be, and I always underestimate the length. So I'm not going to even comment on how long I think this video is going to be. Come on, here we go. Down we go. Oh, there we go. Here we go. Right, okay. Steve Mumbling says, I'm trying to imagine myself and my work colleagues taking time off work because one of them had just lost their gran. I can't. It isn't credible, is it? Something else is going behind the scenes, and you brushed over the time you spent on Raza's episode. Nearly 3 hours doesn't suggest you wanted to end the episode in a shorter time than usual, does it? You're wrong, Steve. First of all, get off Jarrah's case. You don't know how he feels. You don't know what his family relationships are. Some people are closer to their grandparents than they are to their parents. My character in the Obscurity Chronicles, he's very, very close to his paternal grandmother. Yet his father, he's very distant from. And there's real people like that. I was much closer to my daughter's grandmother, her maternal grandmother. That is my partner's mother, when I was with her, than I ever was to my own mother. At least at that time. Now, we may interest you to know with the episode, the Apollo Detectives with Raza, I actually was only on... I was actually only on it for about half of it. What happened was, you see, you realise these aren't live streams, Steve. Neil records them in advance. And what he did was, I had to leave before the end. And so he asked me just to record the... We then recorded the outro, which I did. And then he went on to do the rest of the show with just Raza. So I wasn't on it for 3 hours. Hugo Rune says, oh my god, he's high as a kite. You'll have to drag him down from the ceiling, Bill Hicks style. Reply to comments 57. Alcohol and wheelchair. I do drink a maximum 6 cans craft IPA, and I really enjoy the flavours of, because pissed and wheelchair is not good, and for 30 years I've never got drunk. Seriously, falling out of the chair whilst living on my own as I do, no way. Cannabis and wheelchair. I can smoke as much as I like, and there are 0 adverse effects that give me any worry about my wheelchair. Ignore me, I'm a criminal enjoying a Brewdog Punk IPA. Oh, bless you. Hugo, I hope you don't get a big criminal record for that. That's just absurd. I really hope you don't. Hugo Room. I've got my top window and my side window open. Such a pleasure because it's raining. And the sound of rain and the lovely cool breeze on my body whilst I have a spliff. Magic. He's getting worse now. Here we go. And quite simply, re-cannabis. My family of 2 brothers and 2 sisters and my mother. Not one of them has any interest in cannabis, but they all advise me just to keep my mouth shut. Well, you certainly don't do this in my comments section, Hugo, do you? Hugo says this is all on 57. Are the memories? The storeman next door to my workshop in Oman and Afghani, he said to me one day, Mr. Mike, my birth name, please. Mr. Mike, please. We have a special celebration for childbirth, and we need a bottle of Johnny Walker's, which I could get for the equivalent of £4 back then, no tax. Can you help? I said, of course, but in payment, I would rather have hashish, which he smiled at. It was his family, so for every bottle of Johnny Walker's I got for him, he gave me a 20 cig packet with a block of hash in it. The pure stuff How much is that in the UK? Thousands. That's one of the advantages of working around the world the way you have. Oh man. Ego says it on 57. Basically, my script for Sativex legitimizes my use and to grow my own cannabis, whether I smoke, vape or eat it. 57. Marky Boy says, seriously, forget cooking oil, it's not good stuff, and use lard. Praise the lard! Oh, you're not, it's like Richard Freeman. I'm not even joking, a bacon sarnie with an egg and all the fried lard is so bloody tasty. Use lard, it's much better. Also, avoid margarine, use salted butter. I do not eat margarine at all. I use olive oil, and I do use butter. I put butter on bread and things like that. The hard stuff you've got to cut, not the unless you leave it out of the fridge all night, which I don't. What's that noise? Oh, sorry. As for cooking oil, I use olive oil, which is healthy. Swine flu, it's an old one here. Swine flu diary part 3. I did that from years ago. A fine comment in the YouTube link. Alright, what's this? Is Amy. Fine comment in the YouTube link. What's this? It's a YouTube video. What's this here? What's this? Amy says on Rachel's Voice book review. What's this here? This is a mirror. It's a little clip from an old video I did. Amy has like put a clip on a channel here. It's just got like a little. What is this here? Hang on, let me just show you. Let's have a look. There we go. It's this subject. What is that there? I don't know what that means. But this is Amy's channel anyway. Let's carry on. So this is a link to a video which is just like lots of colours, and there's a Q tag. Someone actually says in the comments underneath this video, "What is this? Tell me, please." So Amy, I don't get that. I don't know what that's about. But Neptune Returns says underneath. He seems to be very impressed because he says underneath, "Incredible." All right, here we go. You think that's incredible, do you, Neptune? I think that doesn't make any sense at all. Right. Alright, Amy, I don't get that at all. It's an old video. I don't know which one it is. I can't remember. But it's got my old earphones and microphone. It's also got my Silver Truth trumpet behind me, which I'm afraid I had to throw away. So, Amy, I'm afraid I don't... find the YouTube... Find comment. Oh, is there a comment in this? Sorry, I didn't check to see if there's a comment in this under this video. Amy says... Let's have a look. No, there's no comments. I'll just put like a big question mark. I'll put A, like that. There we go. I'll put one comment, because I don't know what you're talking about, Amy. Sorry. And here we are. We have now 57, and it's Jam Noise. Hi, bro. Check the comment about my Come Relax With Me video. I hope my face is acceptable here, lol. Right, this was a troll, one of the droid trolls actually, who did the typical thing here. All right, Charles Jam Noise seems to get in a. She's saying something here about she gets in a discussion with Charles from Project Camelot, who of course has disappeared now. Actually, I did put in I won't cover that bit because I actually put in a text comment here, and I get into this discussion with Jam Noise here about this. I won't read it all out. But what happens is a troll, one of the droid trolls, decided to contact Jam Noise 72 and make her try and turn her against me with telling her that I said something which I didn't, or at least it was completely distortion of what I actually said, hoping that Jam Noise would turn against me. And he's done this before. They have done this before. See, what happened was with the Larry Warren incident, which you've actually probably already seen a bit about that in my video called A Person Goes to OLM. They contacted Peter Robbins and made him aware of something I said, like, I think 12 years ago on a bloody forum. And they said, look what a horrible person Ben Emlyn-Jones is, he said this. And they've just tried to do the same with Jamnoy 72. Now, in... oh, what's that? Oh! Right, oh, it's the different noise I have on my new phone for that. Alright, that's the end of an hour. I'll just say this briefly. They've tried to do the same with Jamnoy. Rather than, you see, these are people who would not confront me directly. These are the same people who would not come to Watford to meet me when I said, look, if you really hate me that much and you want to have a go at me, just come to Watford. Come to Watford, stand in front of me and say these things to my face. I actually made a video called Confronting Droik. It was a free lunch. All they had to do was just turn up. And they didn't. They didn't turn up. Yeah, and one of them, at least some of them, what they do instead is they go behind my back to other people and try to turn other people against me. It's called relational aggression. Just look up relational aggression. This is something that my friends in Wales told me all about. It's a kind of passive aggression. It's where you don't confront people directly. Instead, you try to undermine them through influencing other people within their social circles. And this is what they tried to do to Jamnoy 72, and it didn't work. Because Jamnoy and I are soul brother and soul sister, and we're like that. And she saw through it straight away. So, love you a lot, Jamnoy, Jackie. Thank you very much for not falling for that. Of course, I knew you wouldn't. Anyway, back in a minute. Okay, I'm back. Yes. And yeah, I've had to listen to the file I've just created because, like I said, I'm looking for ways of. I think I've solved the problem which caused the technical problems last week. I found a way to compress the file so it's not like 7 point something gigabytes. It's only about half a gigabyte. But I've noticed that my microphone is actually very loud. It seems that my voice is very loud on the microphone. So it's the opposite problem of last time, which is where people complained it was too quiet. I think just you've got a volume knob, just turn it down. Turn it down. Right, Marley Pumpkin is here, saying something about me not being a hospital porter. No, it's actually the day the Earth stood still watch party introduction. Marley says, another childish video. Don't cover anything serious. Make sure you don't get terminated. I said, I'll be back. Steve071 says, on the day the Earth stood still, watch party introduction. Brilliant, Ben. Thank you for taking my suggestion as one of your watch party movies. Was it you, Steve? It was Steve071 who requested this film, right? Yeah, someone else requested another film, which I'm going to do for the next watch party. And I can't remember who it was, but they can own up. Steve says, I've got my deluxe version DVD with commentary with Robert Wise and Nicholas Mayer, a fellow film director, and a 70-minute documentary, lots of extra goodies ready to watch. Hey, nice one, mate, nice one. My own DVD does have like a commentary function, which I haven't used. It's also got like a mini feature where you see a news report explaining how this gets an award. The film actually won a special award at the Science Fiction Convention in 1951. Yeah. But I hope it's good, Steve. It is a great movie. I really did think it was very good. Same video, Rick Horden. Genetically organised robot technology. Sound familiar? GORT. GORT. Is it an acronym, GORT? His name is a name. I just thought it was a name from the Venusian language, like Klaatu. GORT. Genetically organised robotic technology. That's a good one, yeah. Just check everything's working all right. Yeah, I think it is, yeah. Yeah. Steve071 says on the same video, enjoy your mysterious weekend jaunt, Ben. Enjoy your mysterious weekend jaunt, Ben, and take care. We don't want you ending up in solitary. Oh, that was before I went off to Wales, wasn't it? Yeah. Oh no! Sorry, it was Weird Weekend, wasn't it? It was weird. Was it Weird Weekend or Wales? When was this? These things blend in. I've been, like I said, been to 2 damn conferences. I've been on a trip to bloody Wales. I've been all over. I've been travelling like in hell, hasn't I? Okay, Weird Weekend North, part 2 of 2. Liam Nicklin says, Ben, I've been plagued by insomnia since about 2005 when a relationship fell apart and I lost somebody I loved very dearly. When you said you wonder if you was the only one who had unpleasant thoughts while trying to sleep, I thought I would let you know that you aren't, because I get this too. I'm very sorry, Liam, I am. I do wonder what caused mine. I mean, it could be like a relationship problem with me, because my split up from Sue Stain has hit me very badly, probably worse than I thought. I am very stoic when these things tend to happen, being an ex-hospital porter, and maybe, you know, I've bottled up the feelings, as people do sometimes, especially us men. We sometimes bottle up our feelings. Funny enough, I was speaking to a chap the other day whose father has just died, and he's got insomnia now, from after he lost his dad. It does come from, I think insomnia is the primary cause of insomnia is that it's unpleasant thoughts and feelings going through your head when you're trying to sleep. I'm sorry. I hope you recover, mate. I really do. The Day the Earth Stood Still Watch Party Live introduction. Rod said, so many early 1950s black and white sci-fi films are classics. I remember watching this as a kid, being terrified but totally enjoyable. Forbidden Planet in colour was another of my childhood sci-fi classics. I remember. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's a. There were a mixture of colour and black and white back then. But sci-fi generally was a very high quality thing in those days. They may be old, but still have an impact on viewers even today. Forbidden Planet was my favourite of the two, and was made in the year of my birth, which is possibly why my older sisters for many years referred to me growing up as a monster from the id. The monster from the id. Yeah, that's it. I won't spoil it, but you'll know what, if you watch the film, you'll know what the monster from the id means. It's a very good. It's a really good film. It's a spooky, scary. Really, it's the kind of film where you want to look over your shoulder all the time, kind of thing. You know, it's loosely based on Shakespeare's The Tempest, but it's about some people who land on a mysterious planet rather than an island. Our tune says on The Day the Earth Stood Still introduction, rare sci-fi movie that has a moral and spiritual bent. Yeah, it does actually. Yeah, PC and satanic Hollywood is not capable of producing a film like this anymore. Hospital Porter's a good job to hide in until their mission comes up for future movers and shakers. Well, I certainly hid in it for 23 years, but I think maybe my mission came up and I didn't know it, which is why they kicked me out iTunes. But yeah. No, Hollywood doesn't produce anything of this quality today. Nothing. This is why it's falling back on remakes and silly adaptations from comics and sequels, endless sequels of franchises that really should be left alone, because they've lost their creative power. As I think I mentioned this in the film. And it has many causes. It's to do with the political agenda I think they're being forced to put through. It is also to do with, you say PC satanic. It's PC. It's also the horrible truth about what the abuse that goes on there, in terms of child abuse and things like that. The abuse of female actresses and things like that. And which is now coming out. It's now coming out into the open, and they're having to deal with it, which is essentially they've got writer's block. Supernatural Oxford is an old video here. Liam Nicklin says, it's all those murders on Inspector Morse and Endeavour. That's why Oxford is haunted. Liam, I have to tell you this. Inspector Morse is a story, is fiction. I've spoken to the guy who wrote Inspector Morse. He used to go in a pub called the Dewdrop in Summertown. What's his name? I've spoken to him. Oh, what's his bloody name? Hang on. Inspector Morse. Author. His name is Colin Dexter. I should know that. Yeah, he used to go in this pub I used to go into, and I used to speak to him. He's a nice chap, a nice, likeable chap. I think he's dead now, isn't he? I think he's dead. Yeah. But yeah, he invented Inspector Morse. But Inspector Morse is an Endeavour are very, very good, and Lewis. These are actually very good. These are more like classic sort of Agatha Christie type murder mysteries, rather than the ones you have today. Usually have some sort of bloke in like baggy trousers, just drawing his gun on weird guys in leathers. You don't get like police crime dramas like you used to. Inspector Morse, I think, was the last of a dying breed. 1500 UFO pages live stream. Marky Boy says the sun is awful, but it holds a huge sway over a lot of voters. But then so does Facebook and Twitter, and I don't subscribe to them either. Oh, well. Facebook and Twitter are deliberately trying to force certain opinions out of the door. The Sun just is a publisher, not a platform, so it doesn't have to worry about that. But the Sun is truly an absolute, as I said, it's almost a kind of like self-caricature of a trashy British tabloid. And it's the fact that they got hold of all the people of all the places in the world which actually could get hold of these 1500 pages. It happens to be the Sun. It's the ultimate in the chain breaking at its weakest link. And we've heard nothing since this. The Sun have said nothing. It could be that they've had a visit from some guys in dark suits have turned up and taken it all away. I don't know. But if only it had been John Greenwald or someone who'd got hold of this stuff and not the bloody Sun. Why the Sun? Why the damn Sun? Because announcing you've got secret documents which you got through FOIA, maybe, and which they maybe have released by mistake, and then only publishing 8 of them and saying, well, we'll keep the rest. Jeez. Oh, HE double hockey sticks. Could you believe it? We may still hear some more about it, 1500 pages. Marky Boy says, are you really a shill, Ben? Gosh, how exciting. Oh, well, some people think so, Marky. Linda Lusardi, lovely lady, and once owned a lovely red Ford Capri 2OS, the perfect match for my younger self. Oh, well, I don't know about the car, but the lady certainly was a match for me. Although I've not seen her for years. I'll tell you another pastry girl. I mentioned Bridget Barclay, but what about Melinda Messenger? She's not only very beautiful, she's very, very, very kind of like, she's very based actually. She about things such as the V word. She's been on long before the C word broke out. She was all over. She was on TV talking about that. The Crafty Nihilist says, Ben, I gave you a load of those teabag cards. Haven't you looked at them? Oh, bloody hell, Crafty, I'm sorry. I don't know what you're talking about. You've given me so many gifts over the years, and I really am sorry if I haven't looked at these cards. I don't remember them. I've got this other thing. Look, I've got these. You gave me these, and I've got the card you gave me. I don't know. I don't know. Please, could you remind me? And I offer you my full apologies. Introduction. Still introduction. Steve Mumbling says, "Don't tell me you haven't seen this film, Steve." Hey Ben, apparently you study space weather. You must know that the sunspot activity and solar flux are way up. Yeah, we're approaching the solar maximum, Steve. Yes. Don't forget to tell that nut. Don't forget to tell that nut Johnston Corbyn's Maunder minimum predictions were absolute rubbish. And while you're at it, ask how the fake cold steam turbine is working out. All right. Corbyn's this is Piers Corbyn predicted something about about saying that we were going to have another Maunder minimum, which we didn't. However, we did have a very deep, long solar minimum this year, which may well have an effect on the climate. The cold steam turbine thing is, that was something Miles put up on his channel a couple of years ago. I've heard nothing of it since. Apparently something to do with Victor Schauberger. I don't know. But so I know what you're referring to, Steve, but I don't know I haven't got the details to hand. Rod says on French election 2022 live stream, I didn't join the live chat, but as you know from my previous comments, I'm now in bed, earplugs in, listening intently, and yes, at my OAP advancing years, I'll probably fall asleep after a while, then back for the second half tomorrow. Oh, thank you, Rod. Hugo says, my word, all I can say is ditto. It's been 1 a.m. now. Oh, thanks, guys. Thanks. I know I have a lot of viewers, actually, who are sort of on the older side. And I know that you don't always stay. You sometimes have to consume things in 2 parts, which is fair enough. Anything you miss live will be there afterwards. I don't delete. Some people do live streams and then delete them. I keep them. I don't delete the live streams. And I also upload them. I download them from YouTube and upload them to other platforms. Right, where was I? French election 2022 videos from the underground says, as much as the French protested Macron, then he wins the election and reinstated. Something fishy. Can't trust election results anymore. If we can't, then that opens up possibilities to be like South America with coups. People have to believe and be convinced the elections are honest and then retreat otherwise. Yeah. A lot of people, there's been several people claiming there was rigging in this election. As I said, there was a video going around. I can't understand it because it's in French, but the people sent envelopes with the polling slips in, because you actually have the candidate on the polling slip in an envelope, and you choose which one to put in. And all the pen ones had little cuts in them, or little nicks taken out of them. Now I don't really see how that could cause electoral fraud. I'm not sure how that could be used for electoral fraud as such, because you see, it's not a machine that counts them. You put them into a box and they're counted physically. Now you could say, well, the people doing the counting are fiddling with them, because when they see one which has a nick in it, they just throw it away. But then they could do that just as easily just by opening it up and looking at the name. So I'm not sure exactly how that would contribute to electoral fraud. Maybe people who know more about the French electoral system can tell me. However, the potential generally for electoral fraud in French elections is low. Unlike in the United States, it's because they use a very old-fashioned method. They've kept the old-fashioned method in almost all areas. This doesn't mean it's impossible. Waiting ballot boxes, putting in extra ballots and things like that. Extra boxes being shipped in. They did this in the States as well. That's possible. It can be done. I've seen no evidence of it in this French election, but evidence was certainly captured of it in the US election, and indeed the Scottish independence referendum in 2014. But what happens is, you are making a good point here, which is, if we can't, if the political system doesn't work for whatever reason, and it could be because of electoral fraud. It could simply be because there is a media which has such power over the minds of most voters that it sort of manipulates them into voting for certain people. It opens up the possibility to be like South America with coup d'état. Yeah, there's a word why coup d'état is a French word. It's because France. It's happened before in France. It's happened several times throughout French history. France, as I said, is generally a quite unstable society. In this case, as I said, I think this could be the only option now for the good. If there are any good guys in there, the generals I told you about, this could now be their only option. They may well be planning it. They may well be waiting. Next month, there's going to be the parliamentary elections. The parliamentary elections will decide basically how much power the president has over domestic issues. Depending on how that goes, they then may make the decision to strike, or they may have already made that decision, and they're going to do something very, very soon. They may be planning it right now, and as I said, if that happens, my first instinct will be to rejoice. It will. Same video, Hugo Runes. Spot on, Ben. I watched the original Papillon when I was a teenager. And that introduced me to Steve McQueen and Dustin Hoffman. Excellent film. Yeah, it is. Continue. I'm only an half hour in. Yeah. And you've only smoked half of the first one, haven't you, Hugo? Kev Baker, R.I.P. Professor Fate says sorry. Yeah. I've just created an archive actually. Just before I went away to York and Outer Limits magazine, I created an archive of all the shows that I've been on with Kev that were on his channel, and I found some on some other sites as well. I did 78 shows with Kev. I've only managed to find about 35 of them, but I found some clips, a few clips from some other shows. But they're on. I put them on archive.org. French election live stream French election 2022 live stream. All right. Tor Engen says, "Oh, here we are. In France, if the ballot paper is not completely intact, then it is not one valid." I see. Right, that's interesting to know. Tor, thank you very much, because if that's true, it means that the voters are being sent ballot slips which are spoiled, essentially, in advance. So even a little cut in the ballot paper means it's not valid. Because if that's true, there you have it. That is evidence of vote rigging. That's interesting. Thank you very much. We have Marky Boy on French election 2022 live stream. Ah, great, another podcast for me to listen to at work. Well, it's a video, technically, Marky, but I mean, you can just cut the audio and listen to that. It's almost as good. I mean, I do have a few visuals in it, but you can still I think you just enjoy these kinds of videos listening to the audio. But I hope you enjoyed it at work, mate. I do. Predictable retort from me, as well as the feeling it was another fix, just the same as in the States. The cabal controls the outcome. They give a limited choice and already know the result. Just at the start point, and Ref Musk, there is no way people will get free speech from the cabal puppet. It's a shit show, Ben. The whole of this reality. Hence I am having as much fun as possible and have made my peace with God. Like you, Ben, I am not religious as such, but it does seem to be a spiritual war. And I am a flawed Jesus warrior these days, as whatever is behind all this darkness is going on in the world, it does seem to be demonic, stroke evil, whatever it is. Yeah, it is, yeah. I mean, to address, you make a few points here. As for the election, the cabal doesn't always control every outcome. I think Brexit and Trump were what they didn't, was certainly completely against what they wanted. They're not all powerful. It is a demonic evil presence in this world, but it's not all powerful. As for this being a fix, well, based on what Tor Engen has said, I mean, that's an interesting piece of evidence with the cut ballot papers. However, if that's true, it's not always necessary to do full electoral fraud. If you have a population that is psychologically manipulated to respond to media pressure very, very easily, you don't need to put in extra ballot slips or fiddle computers. They will vote for who they're told to vote for. I think it is sad, and it's a repeating pattern, because Macron was a very unpopular president during his term. They were in the kind of protests we've seen in France over the last few years. Even by French standards, they were quite severe, worse than we've seen probably for several decades before then. They complained continuously about Macron. There was people even went to his house and dumped a load of cow manure in his front garden. Oh, that's very funny. The yellow vest people did that. And then when push comes to shove and they actually have the opportunity to change, to trade in Macron for someone better, they don't. It's very frustrating. That's the problem. But I'm glad you made your peace with God. I try to do the same. Because whatever's going on, it is something that could be a multi-generational project. We may not see the post-Illuminati world in our lifetimes. That's certainly possible. In which case, all I can do is do what I can right here and now to create the post-Illuminati world, and hope I can reincarnate and get a taste of it when it actually happens. But yeah, I think being at peace with your own conscience is very important, whether it is you believe in a spiritual reality or not. I personally, like yourself, Marky, I do believe in a spiritual reality, God, whatever you want to call it, Jesus, etc. But even if you don't, you can just call it your conscience. You need to be at peace with your own super ego, so to speak. And I'm glad you are. I think I am too, or I try to be. French election video again. This is Mohamed Man. MOHMD. I don't know what that means. And there's some words, there's something here in Spanish. And I think this is spam. I can't read that, it's in Spanish, but I think it's spam. I'll get rid of it. I can't be bothered to delete it now and probably screw up the comments section again. Same video, Marky Boy, quote, low voter turnout, unquote, i.e. there's nobody worth voting for, I feel. Well, I think Le Pen was worth voting for. I think she was their Trump. I mean, I think if it had been Mélenchon, I mean, Mélenchon almost beat Le Pen in the first round. If it had been Macron versus Mélenchon, I wouldn't have bothered voting. But if I was French, I would have voted for Le Pen, definitely. Same video, Tadpole says, good analysis, Ben, thanking you. You're very welcome, Tadpole. Marky Boy, French election, Notre Dame burning was a sketchy AF. It may have been a signal to start all this kind of agenda. What happened in Notre Dame is, I should say, vandalism of churches and cathedrals in France has become endemic. What happened with Notre Dame is it's been blamed on, I think there was a cover-up of what the actual cause was, because it was being renovated at the time, and there was some story about how one of the builders renovating it dropped a cigarette or something, like professional restorers of old buildings would do that. I think this was an arson attack, like so many we've seen, and the government covered it up because they know that Macron is to blame for this, because Macron has been 100% behind the whole immigration agenda, and also the fact that there's the deliberate radicalization of Muslim youth. He's part of all that, and it's very obvious, and people would turn against him. So yeah. But it was, as you say, a sketchy AF. I'm glad more damage wasn't done. Incidentally, apparently it's more dramatic. It's the actual damage to the building, the ancient Notre Dame Cathedral, is not as bad as it looks. Sure, the roof was gone. The wooden spire actually was, I think, a 17th century addition. But generally speaking, a lot of the art treasures and things like that were saved. Rather like the rose window in the York Minster, which it's in a video I uploaded since then. But thanks, Marky. Thanks you. Into the Triangle. Andy G says, it's always a good day when Ben uploads a 2-hour video. Thanks, Andy. I'm glad you're happy with that. Tim Simpson, lots of military flights go on down there. Still do. Yeah. There are still active military bases. RAF Browdy is still there, although it's now still a SOSUS base. But there was still, I mean, we did see a couple of military aircraft going around when we were there. Wayne RS4 says on the same video, I've not even watched this video in full yet, but already looking forward to it. Finally, some of these types of videos you used to do in the past. Fingers crossed you do plenty more of these this year, Ben. Oh, I will, Wayne. In fact, I already have since then, and there's more to come. Thanks very much. I'm glad you liked that. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Into the Triangle, Marley Pumpkin. More UFO nonsense. That's a good start, isn't it? Not exactly stopping the New World Order, are you? Not kicked off YouTube like everyone else. You have 6,000 subscribers and only 400 people watch your videos. You're such a sellout MI5 agent. Yawn, yawn, yawn. Don't you go all Richard D. Hall on me, Marley. I've got enough of that from bloody, what's their name? I think stopping the New World Order, the UFO issue, is a part of this thing to do with the New World Order. It is, yeah. David Splendid Isolation says, Taffy's Bermuda Triangle. Correct, yes. It's been compared to that. It's been by many, many researchers, yes. Into the Triangle, Lurvish says, you are very unfit. You'll need a mobility scooter soon. Oh, really? Well, I don't need one yet, and I'm actually fitter than I look. Believe it or not, I can walk 8 hours a day in my job. I was a hospital porter for 23 years. I still have a very active job. Luke Bryce says, the man still gets out of his house and visits locations. He walks further than most of the UK. Thank you, Luke. Thanks for supporting me there, mate. Much appreciated. Lurvish says, he's always huffing and puffing and looks very overweight. Really? This is coming from Mr. My arse looks like two razor blades with a polo mint between them, is it? This is coming from Mr. I have to hold my arms out like that when I'm walking along so I don't fall down drains, is it? You skinny bastard. Go and have a good meal, will you? Go before you die of anorexia. Into the Triangle, Rick Horton. Keep cash in circulation. Great video, Ben. Thanks, Rick. Yeah, the cash thing is very important, as I've actually done dedicated videos and articles about the cash issue. It's now becoming very, very apparent. Same video. It's been so long since I've been to Cowley. Am I right in thinking that's the business park, that the business park is close to the old post office building? No, Gary, no, I don't know. I didn't know you'd been to Oxford. No, the old post office. Oh no, you're sorry. I know what you mean. You mean the sorting office. I thought you meant the actual. There's a post office in the city centre. No, it's not close to that. But you're right. The business park is right next door to the big sorting office in Cowley. You're right. Yeah, definitely. Into the Triangle. Rick Cleland gives me applause. Thank you, Rick. Much appreciated. Caroline McGreal says on Into the Triangle, here's a read more. Thank you, Ben, for your sharing your explorations. A very interesting watch. At 51,741, you tell us what Mrs. Coombs, I hope I spelled that right, you did, yeah, has religious visions of the Virgin Mary. This puts me in mind of the sightings of UFOs and Our Lady of Fatima reported in 1917 by 3 shepherd children at the Cova della Irina in Fatima in Portugal. Yes. Now, Pauline Coombs is religious. I know, like in the book The Uninvited, there's several scenes where she says prayers and things like that. So yeah, she has a religious bent to her. But it's not a major theme of the story. It's not a major theme of the thing. It's only a small part of the story, actually. That noise you just heard instantly was just the process. That was basically converting the file to a small, compressing the file. So yeah, apparently according to the book, the Dyfed Enigma, which is not mentioned in Clive Harold's book, she had religious visions before she saw UFOs. Anyway, Caroline goes on. And the colours of the flag of Fatima are, yes, you guessed it, Ben, blue and yellow. Oh, like Ukraine. Please keep an eye out for those colours, Ben, because the hidden hand in high places that rules this fallen world uses these colours all the time as a calling card or a type of mind control, you might say, for their exploits. Just as in all the things C-19 and the Ukraine conflict with its B and Y flag. It's also the colours of the very influential rich elite family that starts with R and ends with child. I know who you mean, of course. It's all things connected and biblical, cryptic, spiritual warfare. You don't have to believe me, Ben, but please keep an open mind about all this and just file it in the back of your brain. Thanks again, Ben, for a very fascinating adventure. Take care. All the best from South East London. Thank you, Caroline. I will bear this in mind. I will. What you said. What you said about the Ukrainian flag is very interesting too. I didn't know it was used. Those colours were used in other areas because it would fit with how the Ukrainian flag essentially has become the new pride flag, hasn't it? It's like, as I said, the normies crystal meth. Into the Triangle, David, Splendid Isolation. What Jag is it, Ben? An X-Type? I drive one of those V6 per. Oh, right, lucky you. It's 1990s. I'm not sure exactly what it was. Steve Mumling says XK8 V8. All right, maybe Steve could recognise it from the interior. I never actually showed you the exterior. And David says much nicer. Can't get much further or better for a long road trip as long as there's only 2 going. Has to be a Jag. And Mike Chaffin says Paramount Performance XKR. Oh, is this I think this is maybe, hang on, let me just have a look. I think I know this person. Yes, I do. Oh, right, yes, I know this person. Yeah, I know this person. Yeah. Steve Bumbling says to Mike, nice. The one good thing I miss about the UK is cheap, nice cars. That would be 3 times the price here. Yeah. Yeah, it would. It's a lovely car, actually. Yeah, I'm a little bit big for it, but it's actually a pretty good car. I think it's very impressive. It moves well. It's stylish. Yeah, good find that for the driver. David says into the triangle, based on the map in the book, it seems that the flying saucer had landed further up, closer to the school, about halfway between where you'd marked and the northern edge of the wood. And Dark Corner says, yeah, I thought the same. Well, I did an estimate based on comparing the two maps as best as I could. Either way, the actual location is not accessible. I mean, it seems to be on private land where there are no paths. I think it may be possible if we could start climbing fences and things like that, but we weren't in a position to do that at that point. And maybe that's something I could think about in a future video. Into the triangle, David says, the problem with the Mandela effect is that because of the nature of the claim, it can't be proven not to be a group confabulation on a societal level. It's tricky to prove. It is very difficult, David. I think there is overwhelming circumstantial evidence in the form of the necessity to introduce the coincidence element to explain it as anything other than the Mandela effect. Because I know people say, oh, what about Tiny Toons and things like this with the Looney Tunes thing, but I remember watching, for example, an episode of the Bottom, Rick Mail, Agent Edmondson comedy, where Rick replies to Adrian's character as a bald-headed Looney Tune, and this was before I'd ever seen Tiny Toons. There's other examples of that, and the clarity of the memory of me asking my mum when I was about 5 years old, it's so clear, and it's a memory I've had my whole life. Why are they called Looney Tunes? Same video, Angel Breath. That's a good name. Well done, Ben. We'll look forward to this. Oh, thanks, Angel Breath. By the way, I will say more at some point about the encounter I might have had with an angel when I went to Hull, in a video that's coming up, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. The Crafty Nihilist says, on Into the Triangle, 42, did you commission H.R. Geiger to do your illustrations, Ben? Oh, let's have a look at this. There's a timestamp here from Crafty. They're sort of playing in this area. Who's H.R. Geiger? Is this like some modern artist? Let's have a look. H.R. Geiger art. Here we go. Images. I'll just show you. There's some examples here. Display capture. There we go. H.R. Geiger art. All right. These are. Oh, that's the alien. That's the alien thing. Oh, blimey. Looks like kind of sci-fi artist, including alien thing. Oh God. Let's go to all and see what's there. H.R. Geiger. The Swiss artist known for airbrushed images that blend human physiques with machines. Oh right. He won an Academy Award for the visual design of Ridley Scott's Alien. That's him there. That's H.R. Geiger. Right you are. Oh, I think I see you'll be Crafty is suggesting that somehow I'm not a very good artist. Oh, Crafty, how could you? My little matchstick men and matchstick cats and dogs would be anything that W.S. Lowry could ever create. Yeah, into the triangle. Tim the Pigeon Master says that's a good name. Wrong bridge. It was the old one. Oh right. Right. You're talking about a Severn Bridge, I'm guessing. This song. Oh right. This is what's this? This is. It's an ad called. Let me just mute. Hang on. Oh, there's no skip button. Oh, what's that? Hang on. The video has like a picture of a fat woman in a bikini. Right. The Holy Bible by them. Oh right, it's the Manic Street Preachers. Oh right, it's an album by the Manics. I didn't recognise it. All right. Yeah, I know. We went over. It was the old road bridge, Tim. Yeah, that's right. I didn't think I said the one we went over was the one where Richie Edwards actually disappeared. As I said, unfortunately, I don't believe there's a mystery of what happened to Richie. He was in a bad way mentally. He walked onto the bridge. The reason he didn't come off was because he jumped in the sea. Very, very sad. Very sad for a young man to leave this world that way. Tor Engen says on Into the Triangle, Spirited Away is based on Japanese myth. One day each year, all the spirits get together in one small Japanese town to celebrate. Still, I like more Mononoke time. All right. I bet you when that happens, all the ghost hunters in the world can. I bet they all go to that town, don't they? I'll tell you, I'd go there if you got me drunk enough. I'd bloody go there with a camera. I really would. Are the Apollo Detectives 19 Musketeer talks on? No, the Apollo Detectives 10 debunking the debunkers. And I may not have a full answer to this. Oh, this quite long comments has got here. An object in Earth orbit crosses the sky in 6 minutes or less, not 35 minutes, as was the recording made by W4EGA of Apollo 11 from the Moon. Musketeer, I think that depends on its altitude. The longest recording W4EGA could have made, if the source was in orbit around the Earth, would have been 6 minutes. The W4EGA used a horn antenna, not a dish. Oh, this is the... not a dish, not important, as dishes are directional. Try moving your satellite TV dish, which is directional. He wasn't just picking up signals bouncing around in the Earth's atmosphere. He was... I think this refers to something that old Raza was saying. He was receiving a signal from a very specific point in space. A TV antenna, a Yagi, is directional like a horn, and we all know how little you have to move those to lose the signal from the TV repeater just a few miles away. Radio hams often make their own equipment. It's part of the hobby, and the license allows you to do this. Non-licensed people have to buy off-the-shelf transmitters, CB, low-powered UHF walkies, etc., licensed by the FCC or whichever agency deals with that in their country. Radio hams even build and operate their own satellites. Many discoveries and advancements in the world of radio communications have come from amateur radio, so never underestimate a radio ham. Amateur radio operators regularly bounce signals off the moon and receive them back. I've seen a video of that, actually. Yeah, a huge dish antenna is not required. Space agencies use them because they are the best available. If you visit a large radio observatory, you will see there is a radio quiet zone in operation around them at all times. They ask you don't use mobile phones, radio transmitters. In fact, they ask if you turn off all electronic devices. A Google search for radio quiet zone will bring up more info. Jodrell Bank always has a radio quiet zone around it, as do others. The Doppler effect would only show if a craft was moving away or towards the antenna at its speed, not where it was. The W4EJA call sign issued to Larry Basinger by the FCC here in the US. Call signs are issued after completing various examinations which get more complex as you progress. The further you go, the more frequencies and power you're allowed to use. There are amateur bands right through the spectrum from 2200 meters or 136 kilohertz ultra bands to ultra low bands of 2.851, 501, 6627 centimeters, 10500 megahertz ultra high microwave bands. For anyone wishing to listen in on the bands from far above, below TV and radio, etc., you don't need expensive gear. Just go here, there's a link, pick an online fully user controllable SDR and listen to the bands on that location. It's like having the receiver in front of you. You can hear all kinds of weird wonderful stuff, number stations, nuclear subs and so on. Meteorites and micrometeorites. My answer is the ISS, much larger than an Apollo craft, has been in space 23 years compared to an Apollo craft's days. You're more likely to be hit by something in orbit than on a trip to the moon. There's space junk and the Earth's gravitational field pulls rocks towards it. If you listen to Chris Hadfield's masterclass, he talks about hearing of the ISS being hit numerous times, and he was only on board for 166 days. Only. Yet it's been occupied for over 21 years. Meteorites and micrometeorites are a danger, but not a showstopper. Raza points out SpaceX's Starship heat shield, suggesting this is how they combat the danger of being hit. What he doesn't mention is the heat shield only covers about half the craft. Ben, instead of replying, I'll have to ask Raza, do some research and see for yourself if I'm correct, and then challenge him on it. If I've got time to do that, Musketeer, fair enough, but I'm not going to take your word for it either. You see, so I'm not going to go to Raza and say, well, just ask Musketeer. That's not how it works. You could be correct on some of these things, but I mean, I don't have an answer to this right now. But anyway, there's the comment. I've read it out for you. Into the Triangle. I suspect Big Bites, that's the place we at, our cash policy is more about saving money on card machines and on tax than fighting the shadowy NWO. Probably, Paul, but at the same time, I did think it was nice that on the very same place that has a cash-only policy also has a very politically incorrect job advert in the window. Into the Triangle, Luke Breyer says, I really enjoyed this, Ben. Thanks, Luke. Much appreciated. I'm glad you did. Tor Egan says, on Into the Triangle, have you heard that David Icke is 70 years old? Yes, I have. In fact, I made him a little birthday message. Where is it? I'll just show it to you. Here we are. I made him this little birthday message, which you can pause and read, guys. Happy birthday, David Icke. Yeah. Bless his heart. Hope you had a nice day. Nothing as it seems, says Into the Triangle. He always ate at the steak bar. He loved to drive his Jaguar. Oh right, is that that sounds like lyrics of a song. The Sun is in the Wrong Place, Part 1. Nicholas Chambers. This is a really old one. I only just came across this post. There used to be a bar. Used to go on to in Yeadon, Leeds every summer. You don't. Can you use full stops and commas and things like that, Nicholas? But anyway, every summer the sun shone on the chairs and tables outside. In summer of 1998, the tables and chairs were in shade in summer. Time only me noticed, never questioned anyone, as I thought I must have been mistaken. Oh really? Yeah, I see. You're sure that the furniture itself was not moved? That's interesting. It was in summer because, of course, the position of shadows changes at the same time of day can changes according to the time of year. Yeah, if you account for that and it changes, that's very interesting. But thanks for letting me know about that. Simon Jandrell says in Into the Triangle, that church is like Fort Knox, very strange. What the FCUK is inside there that someone doesn't want you to see. Fascinating. Thanks, Simon. I mean, I had a little peep through the keyhole, you know. It was very, very strange. It was surrounded by a fence. Of course, when you get in there, you can see there are actual dangers in the church, like the crypt pathway. However, funny enough, the crypt pathway had a huge locked gate and barbed wire everywhere. I mean, it's like, whew. I thought that was very strange, personally. Yeah. Obviously, the only reason we didn't actually force our way in. The only reason we got in was because someone's already broken a hole in the fence. Tessa1111 says on Into the Triangle, very hard to listen to due to all the wind. Very horrible, distracting. Sorry, Ben. Tessa, I'm sorry about that. I did try to minimise wind noise on the mic. I just get one of those furry things. You know, they're called dead cats. Interestingly. But yeah, I did try to minimise that. I didn't think it was too bad, actually. I was very careful to raise my voice when needed, but hopefully that won't be a problem in future. French election, Israel Diego Vera says, are you saying Angela Rayner has big political knockers? Well, I don't know about it. I've looked at her knockers, incidentally. I think she looks like an alien. I don't like her. And like all these female Labour leaders, she's one of these. She's some kind of obnoxious victimhood obsessed feminists. But there you go. Stephen Truthseeker says on Into the Triangle, there's two different hums. One is a directed energy weapon targeting individuals. The second hum is coming from the back underground bases. I've had both the hums follow me around the country. Also, when I lived on the Wirral, I could only hear the hum when I laid on my bed in the corner of the room. Yeah, Steve, I didn't realise there was more than one kind, and I'm sorry you had both of them. That must be really bad. Now, funnily enough, I know someone else who lives in the Wirral who's heard the hum. Right, but thanks for letting me know, and I hope you don't get it anymore. Diego Rivera says on Into the Triangle. Do you think the aliens made a mistake landing in Wales? As soon as they saw the weather, they were off. Well, they weren't very intelligent, because they hung around for about 10 months. In one way, form or another, they kept coming and going for 10 whole months. Stephen Truthseeker says on Into the Triangle, there are lots of different reasons for missing people. Some are paranormal. I nearly got taken a few times when I was young. One time, beings nearly took me. They were tall shadow-like figures. They were doing crazy dancing in a fairy ring at the back of our house in the dark light lit up by kitchen light. They wanted me to walk into the fairy ring. I chose not to. I'm glad you didn't, Stephen, because, yeah, there are reasons people go missing. Sometimes they do it intentionally. People go away. Some of them go away and commit suicide, and they do it privately where they know they won't be found. I mean, it's sad, but they do. They go into the middle of the woods and take their own lives, and we're in a place where they can't be found. Yeah. Alternatively, though, that does not account for every single case by any means. Diego Rivera says on Into the Triangle, did you experience time loss while you were in the Welsh Triangle? I lived in Llandelo for 2 years, military dress, flying there at low levels. I didn't notice any time loss, Diego Rivera. I'd have been very alarmed if I did. As you know from a previous video and article I've done, I have experienced time loss in the last few months, and it was very disturbing. Stephen says in the same video, checking your old maps for rum doesn't prove false memory, because with the Mandela effect, physical objects can change and disappear once in the past is changed. It must be some kind of technology. The Illuminati has to change the past. False memory syndrome sounds like a classic Illuminati covering up the truth. No, in fact, Stephen, I think you missed the point here. If you look at an old map and it's as you remember it, it does prove that's not the Mandela effect. If you remember looking at an old map and you go back and look at that same map and it's different, and other people have had the same experience and the same supposedly false memory you have, that indicates that it is the Mandela effect. I was very interested when I saw that the island of Rum, RHUM, is like that, because I couldn't find it on any other map. It turns out there was actually a reason why Rum used to be spelt with an H. It was because a landowner long ago in I think the 18th or 19th century didn't like the idea of being called the Laird of Rum because it made him sound like an alcoholic or something. Same video, Stephen says again, these spacemen sightings sound like a cross between alien abduction phenomenon and the paranormal, which would mean to me it's the Illuminati again, up to their old tricks. I've had strange happenings going on in a house I lived in that I believe had a portal. Well, I think the aliens and the paranormal do overlap on some level, as John Keel has explained. There is like a link between them. At the same time, aliens are physical. They produce craft which are solid. They produce creatures. There are creatures which are biological, leave footprints, can touch things like that. When they die, they leave bodies behind, things like that. The Illuminati, though, you see, I believe the Illuminati are not human at the highest level. They're not a human force on Earth. They are actually something that comes from even not just outside this planet, from outside this universe. So technically, yes, they are aliens and paranormal. Oh, end of lockdown live stream. This is an old one. Hello, they're going to bring back the lockdown in September. How do you know, Stephen? Let me know if you find out. I mean, I'd be very upset if they did. Although at the same time, I get the feeling they've abandoned the COVID thing completely, and they're on to new crises now. it'd be very unusual for them to go back to an old crisis once they left. Oh, we have Emlyn-Jones here. Okay, firstly, Steve Mumbling's the OP. Into the triangle. I can smell that hum down here. Smells like bullshit. The hum here, quote, the hum here is constantly, but it's not here now. That's funny. All right. Well, Steve, I think you're speculating as much with this as you were speculating about Jarrah and Jarrah White's family. And Emlyn-Jones, hello, Emlyn, thanks for joining us. And yet you continue to faithfully watch Ben's excellent films. Love is a merciless mistress, isn't she, Steve? Nice one, Emlyn. Yeah, Steve's one of my biggest fans. Steve says they're a chuckle, that's for sure. Oh, as long as you're happy, Steve. That's my main objective is to just give people enjoyment, I think. This is what I found out about it. It's actually Lisa that actually gave me this information. Thanks. Yeah. Lisa says rum, which R-U-M with an accent over the R. I think what's it called? It's like a grave accent. I think it's got over the U. Rum, a Scottish Gaelic name, often anglicised to rum without the accent, is one of the small isles of the Inner Hebrides, in the district of Lochaber, Scotland. For much of the 20th century, the name became RHUM, rum, a spelling invented by a former owner, Sir George Bullough, because he didn't relish the idea of having the title Laird of Rum. Thanks. That's where I found it out. Thank you, Lisa. Lisa says, great stuff, Ben. Thank you. I loved the Red Lion pub and the whole tour. Fab fun. And I so got to get to these Scottish Islands one day soon. Always been a dream. Thanks, Lisa. And thanks for the information. Into the triangle, John Cutter. Nice jag. Pity it couldn't turn left on the motorway so you could travel on the inside lane, mate. Middle lane hoggers. Oh, right. You'll have to ask the driver. I was in the passenger seat, mate. You have to ask the driver, who was Mike. This guy, Mike. Rod says on Into the Triangle, brilliant, Ben. I can't wait for your next video. I too was disappointed that Macron got in again, but take solace knowing that the surge in support for far-right candidates begs the question how long a creaking Republican front of anti-Le Pen voters will hold in an increasingly polarised nation. By the way, have you tried Blistex cream lip relief? No, but thanks for the advice, Rod. The lip problem went away as soon when I got home. It scabbed over, then dropped off. I think it's a psychological thing. I'm going to go back and visit Rhiannon and Mike, and hopefully that won't happen again. As for France, is a very polarised nation. As I explained, it's unstable. It was in the Cold War. It was regarded very much as a loose cannon, neither on one side nor the other. It's always had a powerful mainstream far right, and also a very, very establishment communist party with MPs, like literally communist MPs in Parliament. As I said, Peter Wright, the MI5 agent, he spent most of his career spying on the French rather than the Russians. Steve Mumling says on Into the Triangle, there's a timestamp here. What's this say here? Okay, it's a timestamp. Got it. I think maybe psychological. Like a lot of my health problems, they have a psychological base. Oh, that's me talking about my lips. Yeah. He quotes me here, a lot of my health problems have a psychological base. That's something I've always suspected. Psychological issues would explain how he could seriously believe the Queen of England is a shape-shifting lizard from outer space. He has no critical thinking ability whatsoever. Steve, that's a cheap shot, man. Honestly, man, you know very well that the sentence you've quoted is you're taking completely out of context. You know very well when I say a lot of my health problems have a psychological base, it has absolutely nothing to do with any beliefs I hold which you think are the products of some kind of mental impairment on my part. What I'm talking about here is a physical ailment that has a psychosomatic cause. This has often happened to me in my life. Indeed, it's still happening to me now. Which is, for example, eczema. I used to have eczema in the inside of my elbows and the back of my knees, and it was caused by stress and worry, and even when when I got stressed out, I could even feel it prickling, you know, and flaring up. There's many other examples of that. So that's what I was talking about. I think my painful lips were a source of that. It was maybe because I was subconsciously nervous about going away and spending a long time with some people I didn't know very well. I mean, I've got to know them a lot better since then, and we've been communicating online an awful lot, and I'm going to go back there, and I'll feel a lot more comfortable probably when I go back there. Same video, Dark Corner says, "Hey Ben, just curious about your thoughts on the Scottish government placing tampon machines in male toilets. The world has gone mad, in my opinion." You know, Dark Corners, it's not just Scotland. I went into a pub in Oxford. I was just on my lunch break actually at work, and I went to this pub. There is what looks like some kind of, it was not a tampon machine, but it's not a dispenser, but it's one of those bins, one of those tampon bins in the men's toilet. It's oh goodness, the world has gone mad. It really has, and it's intentional. Same video, Steve mumbling. "So, Mr. Emlyn-Jones, what do you think of your mate threatening to nuke the UK with you in it?" It's not. Steve, Putin is not threatening to nuke the UK. This nonsense came up again with this. Oh, the Belgorod submarine is going to nuke Ireland. I mean, this is crazy. Steve, why do you think they banned RT? They banned RT so they could talk this hogwash. They could talk this hogwash and get away with it. Do you see what I mean? Don't tell me you believe all this stuff, do you? Steve, to nuke the United Kingdom, Putin would have to be both suicidal and want to destroy his own country. In fact, anyone who uses nuclear weapons in this world against any other country which has a nuclear deterrent is essentially signing a suicide doctrine, a suicide note. Not just for them, but for their entire population, their entire nation. It's mutually assured destruction. I don't have to tell you about this. It goes back throughout the Cold War and is still present today. Britain has an active nuclear deterrent. I used to be opposed to this. I'm not anymore because of changes in situations which I've noticed in politics. Russia has an even bigger nuclear deterrent, and in fact it has the biggest in the world. We wouldn't nuke them, they wouldn't nuke us. We'd be stupid. It would be the ultimate insanity to do it. And luckily, Russia is ruled by a man who he's one of the sanest and most sensible and most dedicated and I think compassionate leaders in the world. And I mean, Britain doesn't have that. Oh, that's it. Britain doesn't have that luxury. However, we have a guy we're ruled by a guy who's stupid and he's thick, but he's not that stupid and thick. So, end of another hour, guys. Back soon.